Hello, welcome to Army Edson. I hope you're all well. So a live show here. I got a couple more videos coming out, this week and also into next week for the internationals as well. I just recorded those, but really this is all about our game this weekend. West Ham going to the Emirates to play Arsenal. What do we think is going to happen in this game? Do we think Arsenal are going to wipe the floor with us? Or do I think under new manager Nuno Espirito Santo that we got a chance? We got a chance of taking a game to them. So I've got the chat open. Let us know if you want to come and join and give your views as well. But it's more about the reflection of how we set up against Everton, and can we take that same mentality, that same resolve into the game against Arsenal? Well, there's a very simple answer to this. We have to. That's it. We have to. This is our only option of getting a result against Arsenal. We have to go there with a fight. We have to go there with being defensively sound. Look, he only had a couple of days, maybe one training session with the boys against Everton. Now we've got a whole week of working together. There's rumours now of, well, who is he going to bring in for his backroom staff? I'm not even sure if that's going to be all sorted by the time the weekend comes. In fact, it's possibly most likely to be all resolved during the international break. So you're really still going to have Nuno on his own with the under-21 coaching staff coming in and taking up arms against Arteta. Can he outwit him? Can he do stuff against Arteta or can he set up the players to upset Arteta and upset the way Arsenal play? I've said this in a previous video when I talked about Arsenal when they play against Newcastle. Deserved winners, no doubt. Pretty much they battered Arsenal, right? But I still see Arsenal being that team that wants to try and walk it in the net. They're looking for that perfect pass, that perfect opportunity. Very much Man City-esque. It's no surprise that Arteta under Pep, it's that kind of mentality. And I've got a strong feeling that West Ham can get in there, upset them, rough them up a little bit, and make it really hard for them, frustrate them. But the problem is with Arsenal, we know that they do like to go down really easily in the box. The slightest little touch, they're going to be looking for penalties left, right and centre. They have those dark arts tactics where they're going to try and take an age for corners. They're going to try and be claiming everything. They're going to be getting in the referee's ear so much. I mean, the way Arteta is, he's constantly talking to the fourth official, trying to complain, trying to influence as well. And that's the thing. So they do, there's no point in moaning about it. It's just the way they are. I mean, I can moan about it because I just don't like the way they do their business. And I don't like the way they act on the field. And unfortunately, the likes of Rice, who used to be with us, of course, he went over to them. He's exactly the same now. He's not. I've lost all kind of admiration or love for that player when he's gone over that and he starts acting like they do, and then you kind of think, well, what's going on? But Nuno, he's only got a few days. He's basically got a week to try and make us competitive against Arsenal. Are we going to win? No, I don't believe we will. But there's always a chance we can. Can he do it? Can we beat Arsenal? And I think there's a good opportunity to do that by, roughing up at the game a little bit. Now, if you're asking me, is this the kind of football that I want to watch? No. Is it the kind of football that I think, we should be aspiring to? Absolutely not. However, is it the kind of football that I want to see when we're playing much better opposition, to not be mugs, to not get completely walked over in a game, and to put up a really good fight, which we've been missing for so long? Absolutely. This is the kind of performance that we want to see. Look, you can't always have great football. You can't always have that expansive, fluid football, because a lot of that depends on not only on the manager, but also on the players that you got available. And if your players just aren't up to scratch, you're never going to be able to do that. So we're not going to expect this from Nuno Espirito Santo, because that's not his game anyway. We know what kind of manager is. We know he's going to be defensively sound. We know he wants to play on the counter-attack. I don't believe that we've got the players to play the best kind of football that he can possibly hope to achieve. So we're going to have to go into the transfer window. We're going to have to wait until January and then obviously into the summer if he's still around, of course. Here we go. Danny GS, World of Delusion. You'll need a magic lamp with a genie inside to beat Arsenal. I can't say I totally disagree. However, I will say this. There is always an opportunity. There's an opportunity to make Arsenal beat themselves. And what I mean by that is that they're going to want to try and walk the ball in the net. They're going to try and, outplay us in footballing terms. So we've got to use that against them and try and get in their faces. And this is all over the pitch. This is the only way we're going to do it. Stop them playing, stop them passing, stop them finding those spaces, frustrate them. You frustrate the manager, you frustrate the players, you'll frustrate the crowd. Everybody will be frustrated apart from West Ham players and management and coaching, especially fans, who are going to see exactly what we're trying to do. You can't always, in boxing, in fighting terms, you don't box a boxer, as Bruce Lee used to say, in terms of the father of MMA, right? In many ways, you don't box a boxer, you don't fight fire with fire. You've got to find another way to beat an opponent tactically. And I think in this regard, Nuno Espirito Santo is probably West Ham's best option to get a result here, against Arsenal. Look, this is a mountain to climb, right? This is an absolute mountain climb with only a week in the bank in terms of training. And also, these are not his players. And also, he doesn't have a coaching staff, his own coaching team, unless he miraculously pulls names out of the hat over the next few days. But his previous team that he was working on, they're under contract anyway. Unless West Ham are going to approach Nottingham Forest, let's say we want your coaches. I don't, West Ham ownership, shame on them anyway, but they're not the kind of owners who are going to buy coaches out of contract anyway. Danny, the problem is now Arsenal can go toe-to-toe with that. They are so physical. They are at times, I grant it, and as I do say, they use the dark arts as well, but they're definitely not as weak as they used to be, that's for sure. So they have toughened up a little bit there. I think the only way we're going to beat Arsenal or even get a result, let's just say get a result, whatever that means, a draw, right, is to rough up the game and frustrate them. And that's the only way I can see us win. But the problem is we've got to be so much better defensively against Arsenal, because if we do come up against them and they're playing their game and we're not on side, if we can't defend crosses, if we're not, man marking any of the players, Gabriel, the biggest threat right there, pops up right at the end of the game to get the goal for Arsenal against Newcastle, and he was doing it all last season, wasn't he? If we're not doing that, if we're not getting tight against those any of the Arsenal players, we're in for a real tough day at the office. And I could easily see us getting spanked 4 or 5-0 here, 6-0. Because that's when it'll go completely wrong. But that's where the players defensively, we have to start there. And Nuno said this already. He said, defensively, we have to start there. We have to shore up. Because there's no point in us being great going forward and have expansive forward play. But if we're going to let easy goals in and let Arsenal have too many opportunities, we got to stop crosses coming in. We got to stop conceding corners. We got to stop conceding free kicks. I think the problem is we can possibly go with stopping corners. We can possibly put in enough pressure there and frustrate Arsenal to stop those crosses coming in. But what we will do, we will be conceding free kicks. That is the issue. And again, unless they're direct free kicks, we've got to get really close to the Arsenal, all Arsenal players, man mark the hand out of them, just to stop that space, stop them getting any kind of purchase on any of our defenders. We can't let them get in front of us. We can't let them get free headers. I mean, that's what we've got to stop. I think from an outsider's looking in, I think this is going to be one of the games of the weekend. I've said in another video, this is the game of the weekend with Chelsea at home to Liverpool. These are the two games on the Saturday. In fact, the whole weekend that I think are the most interesting. I think this is a really interesting game for West Ham fans to see. Are we going to see a continuation of getting better and better under Nuno? You know, are we going to see that fight, that extra fight that we need to go up against an Arsenal who are, let's face it, they're knocking on the door of Liverpool, and if they continue in the same way, they could be certainly title contenders as well. Then we've got to look into the international break, see what can happen during that period. And then we've got to look at the rest of the fixtures that West Ham have got. And the first game after the international break is Brentford at home. So there's lots of things that Nuno Espirito Santo can do. But as we know, it's defensively set up. How are we going to set up? The problem is, regardless of what if he goes exactly the same, 4-5-1, right, or 4-1, 4-1, whatever it is, but if it's a 4-5-1, right, does he rely on Fulkrug at the top, or does he put Wilson at the top to just have those extra legs, or does he go with a youth with Callum Marshall? Okay, that's debatable. So it really doesn't matter what happens there. It's actually what happens at the back and in defensive midfield setup. I can't see any real changes there. Areola, I don't think there's going to be a change there. I think he performed really well. And, you know, as a shot stopper, he actually performed great against Everton. And maybe that's what we're definitely going to need against Arsenal. At the back on the left, Juve is fantastic. Kyle Walker-Peters defensively was great. I think, you know, if Wan-Bissaka is there, he can challenge that spot. It'd be great for going forward as well. So Juve, Wan-Bissaka going forward, overlapping Bowen and Somerville as well on the left and right, or right and left respectively. But it's in the centre of the park. Paqueta's got to have the game of his life here in the centre to be more decisive, be less aimless, and be more domineering in the centre of the park. Again, you're up against Rice there, who we know what a quality player he is. So that's going to be a tough game for him. So it's either going to be a really frustrating game for Paqueta, or he's going to have a dominant display. He needs that. He needs that. Not for West Ham fans so much, but he needs that to call any suitors, any other teams at the end of the season who may want to come in for him. He needs to start showing that he can be a dominant force in the middle of the park. And then we're going to ably support him. So we have Fernandes and Magassa against Everton. Are they necessarily the right pick? Should we be starting Potts, who's impressed a lot of West Ham fans? I mean, you know, so you could go up against Arsenal and you can say, right, we could really pressurise them. And I think we've got to start this tight. I think we've got to start this defensively really sound. And as the game goes on, if we can keep it really tight up until half-time, really frustrate, really mess up the game a little bit in many ways, and then just go at Arsenal in the second half and maybe bring on more legs and more pace for the second half. I think that's the way we've got to do it. You know, this is not pretty football. I get it, but football isn't about that. It's about a tactical game sometimes. It's about, you know, it's not, as I say, fighting fire with fire. It's about seeing what the opposition have, how they play, and what have you got to beat them. Because at the end of the day, it's about winning. It's about getting a result, and it's about winning. And yes, we all want to win with a certain style, but I think that takes time to come. And the only way we're going to get that style in the future is to have employer manager who can deliver that kind of style with success. And you need to build players in that. And the only way we can do that is to have a club that's properly run. So properly run with an ownership model that actually knows about football and knows about how West Ham should be, as a club should be, football in terms should be. So we as West Ham fans, of course, we want our owners out, and there's petitions going out, there's protests going out for a reason. And the likes of TalkSport, I did say about boycotting TalkSport, because once again, they let themselves down. You start to think that a lot of the mainstream media are kind of understanding the way West Ham's fans feel about the ownership and why we're protesting, and then they as I said this a couple of weeks ago, watch out for the mainstream media, because In 1 week they'll be in your favor, the next week they'll just turn against you straight away. You can't trust them. Look, I've always said this about TalkSport and all mainstream sports media. A few years ago, they were always belittling, YouTube fan channels and things like that, saying, rubbish. And this is not just football channels, they're belittling boxing channels and all sorts of sportsing channels, right? What do they know? They're just fans, Then all of a sudden, we can see that those fan channels and everything, they're actually getting a lot of momentum. Maybe we should start investing in YouTube channels as well. Then they start all the sporting channels or even news channels. They've all got YouTube channels now. They're all a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of them. And everything that they say on those radio stations, Sport and Sky Sports, it's all to do. It's a lot of it's clickbait. It's trying to get you to phone in and protest against them. As far as I'm concerned, just boycott a lot of them, and boycott especially TalkSport with Simon Jordan. All of it. They just completely. This is not just against West Ham fans. You could be an Arsenal fan, Liverpool fan, whatever. At some point, they just say things, and you're like going, you're just a bunch of knobheads. Honestly, you're just a bunch of knobheads. You really are. And they were trying to stick it to West Ham fans the other day as well. And, I see it today. They're sticking it to Liverpool fans. Look what? You can't phone up and have your opinion, and all of a sudden you're being belittled by, presenters and, even ex-players and as well. And this is the most concerning thing, that you've got ex-players there who should know better, and they're drinking from the poison chalice that is, the mainstream media, as if, they can't go against their narrative because they'll be out of a job. I have the same problem with ex-players who defend a club, in terms of West Ham, let's say, defend a club and say, everything's all okay, when clearly it isn't, right? And I think, what are you trying to hope for? Are you trying to hope that you're going to get some backhander here from the club, from the ownership, or are you going to get some backhander here from the TalkSport or Sky Sports? Listen, the likes of myself, and I don't know about other channels, right, fan channels, but there are some fan channels, and I know this with my other work that I've done on YouTube for years in terms of my other channels, my other interests, right? You get some channels who will do everything they can to gain the favor of, let's say, a big company or a big tech company or a automotive manufacturer or whatever, and they'll never have their own thoughts, they'll never say the wrong thing. And it's the same in the sporting world, right? The same in fan channels. Some fan channels or some boxing channels or whatever, they always try and say the same thing so they can get that interview, so they can appear on TalkSport or Sky Sports and all that kind of bollocks, right? Then you get others, I'm sure, and I've always prided myself on being one of these YouTube channels or people who make content for YouTube, right? In that, I just say my opinions. I give my opinions. It's not about selling products. It's not about trying to gain favor and becoming some kind of media pundit or anything like that. This is about giving honest opinions, and this is what fan channels should have always been about. This is what YouTube content should always been about. It's not about trying to earn that extra pound, dollar, or shekel here. It's not about trying to get into a company's good books or good graces. We're not here to be in the marketing department for any product, any company, any football club. We're here to give our honest opinions of what we actually feel. And from a fan base terms, from a sporting terms, we see it from our eyes, from what we see. And it's easy to dismiss what we see and what we know from people who are looking from the outside, who have no fucking idea of what's going on within a football club. So when you have fans phoning into the likes of TalkSport, for example, who are some of the worst at this, right? And then you get presenters on there and pundits on there who just love to taunt and love to sneer and love to poke the bear, as it were, just so that they can get more views and clickbait and everything. It's just shameful, really. It's just shameful, and it's actually I don't really blame the likes of White and Jordan in terms of the way they act, because that's their narrative. That's just the way they are, right? So I would just say boycott them. If you don't like it, just boycott their nonsense, right? And then they'll soon find out. They'll soon find out. Just like we're going to want to boycott games at West Ham, just like we want to protest. And it doesn't matter what Nuno does for West Ham. You know, what they don't understand here, and I've gone off on a big tangent here, and I fully appreciate that. But what they don't understand here is the mainstream media, is that as a fan base, you can support your manager and your team. And it's a totally different support per se in terms of what you might give to the club and to an ownership, right? They're not the same thing. They are different. So when we don't have our support for Graham Potter, for example, for David Moyes, for Lopetegui, let's say, it's because the football is crap, the tactics are crap, and they're not getting the best out of these players, and performances and results are just going down and down and down. So you give the best you can, you try and support you as much as you can, but it comes to a point where it's just not working. You're a dead man walking, you have to go. So then you're labelling fans as saying being a bit sycophantic or whatever, and you're saying blowing like the wind. Oh, and then they're saying, okay, well, are you going to give Nuno the same support to try and, you know, bridge the gap, you know, and get that disconnect back into West Ham? You're totally missing the point. Again, missing the point. You're supposed to be sporting people at Talk Sport. You're supposed to be sporting people, and you totally misunderstand the fucking point here. The point is that, yes, we support the team. We support the manager to do the best that he can. But we're not going to support the club in terms of the ownership model if they're not doing their proper job. And they haven't done their job for 15 years, and they've ruined a lot of what West Ham is. So that's why we're going to continue supporting the protests, continue supporting the petitions, continue supporting the boycotts of games and all that kind of stuff, and showing our displeasure and showing our angst and showing our how upset we are with the ownership. But that's got nothing to do with our support for Nuno and the players, because we want that ownership to change so that it gives managers the best opportunity to thrive and to improve. And to have the likes of Stuart Pearce, you know, berating us, saying how crap Upton Park was and how awful it was, and, you know, how we should be thankful in other ways going into this classy stadium. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Absolute outrageous for you to say that. I had some respect for you, Stuart, but if you're gonna talk like that, then don't expect me to have any respect for you at all. Yeah, and I've said this time and time again, for any kind of ex-footballer that plays for any team that kind of dismisses the club and dismisses the fans. I had the same feeling for Mark Noble a few years ago. And so you whilst I still hold Mark Noble, of course, in the highest of esteem, legend, he would have been even higher if he hadn't said the things that he'd said a few years ago about West Ham. Same with Stuart Pearce. I hold him at a certain level, right? But I would have held him even higher if he hadn't said what he said the other day. And it just goes to show you're totally disconnected the way fans feel. There's only a couple of ex-players out there of West Ham who come out into the media and actually say what they say, and they defend West Ham. Tony Cotter's been one who's done it, but not, you know, I can't say I've heard everything that he's ever said about the club. Dean Ashton always understands it for me, understands what it is. But, you know, obviously especially Dean Ashton, he's with Talk Sport, so he's got to toe their line as well a little bit. But like Carlton Cole, he never says anything. And one is going against the narrative of TalkSport, and he works with the club in terms of ambassadorial position as well. So he obviously feels he can't say anything there as well. But that's why that fan channels are so important. TalkSport is a load of bollocks. Sky Sports is a load of bollocks. If they don't fully understand and appreciate what fans are trying to tell them. West Ham fans, just like Newcastle fans, were trying to tell their side of the story for years and years and years, and nobody wants to listen. Then all of a sudden, because it kind of makes a little bit a change in the news profile, Oh, maybe we can start talking about this. This is a hot topic. Hey, maybe people start listening to us. Maybe people start watching our channel a little bit. Maybe people start engaging with us a little bit. We'll start talking about West Ham and how bad are these owners. Let's start digging. Then as soon as you get a new manager in, all of a sudden they flip the narrative again. And they think, oh no, it's all West Ham fans, so they're moaning again. They don't do anything, everything. This is, and if you're a fan of another team, right? This will happen to you. If it hasn't already, this will happen to you. And it will happen to you because you've probably experienced it at some level already. When they're talking about your team, then all of a sudden you think, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? If I talk about Man United or Arsenal or Liverpool or Chelsea or whatever, I'm kind of asking questions, but I'll say objectively, it's just I'm looking from the outside looking in, but I don't know what root causes are. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So for anybody else to say at West Ham, oh yeah, we know what's going on at West Ham. No, you don't. You haven't got a fucking clue. If you had a fucking clue, you wouldn't be saying exactly the things that you're saying. And for people like Stuart Pearce to go on there honestly and talk about the new stadiums, if it should be a fantastic thing, and it's something that we should be embracing and everything like that, and especially what we had at Upton Park. And my contention is yes, it needed to be redeveloped. But not to move. It should have been improved, yes, but it not improved. And a 50,000 seater stadium is more than enough for West Ham. Look, if we want a 60,000 seater stadium, 70, 80,000 seater stadium, of course, great. But as long as it's within the same region, within the same area, on the same land, and you could, where we were, you're not going to get an 80,000 seater stadium or 60,000 seater stadium, but we could have redeveloped it. We didn't need to move. We didn't need to have this pump to say, oh yeah, we're going to be great and we're going to be competing with Arsenal and the likes of world-class players in a world-class stadium. We've never had it. That wasn't delivered to us. So the ownership have failed West Ham. They've taken everything that's so dear to West Ham fans and they've ripped it out of it. And this is what mainstream media, again, they've completely failed to realise. So when they attack us now and question whether we're going to support Nuno Espirito Santo, we are 100% in support of a manager and players who can try and deliver us performances, results and commitment. But obviously, we can't support any manager in the future of players who don't deliver that, who don't give us that. We're going to give you as much time as we possibly can. But if you can't deliver that, then we're going to have to start calling you out on it. But what we won't stop calling the club out, what we won't stop protesting about, is these fucking owners who have completely destroyed this club and who have not supported the management and the progression of this club for years and years and years. 15 years they've been there, and they've just taken it from worse to worse to worse. And this is a problem. You talk about a disconnect in a club. The disconnect is the fans and the ownership and the way it's been treated. If the disconnect is not with the team and with the manager of the day and also with the players, there's never going to be a disconnect there, because the support is always going to be there as much as you can. But if it's just not working, then you've got to call time on it. You've got to call time on it. But some things are bigger than football. Some things are bigger than the game, the manager. And so the protests are ongoing and with the ownership and the ownership model. That's what people have got to understand. That's what mainstream media got to understand. And shame on them for continuing on this path of questioning the integrity of West Ham fans. Shame on them. Boycott TalkSport. Boycott any of these mainstream media channels who are complete hypocrites. Because years ago they had nothing to do with YouTube. They had nothing to do. Had nothing to do with the way we did things or fan channels and everything like that. They totally dismissed us. And look at them. They're all the same now. They're all the fucking same. Every single one of them. They're complete arseholes. Sorry, I've gone off on a rant, but that's just the way it is. Words and pictures. Hello, good afternoon. Afternoon. Bring me back down. Let me simmer. Let me take a glass of water here. Bloody hell. But there we go. Anyway, back to Arsenal at the weekend. Look, the thing is, for Arsenal fans, if you're watching this, right, you had exactly the same thing when you were all protesting, talking about your previous owners in the past, and also about things that you were talking about Arsene Wenger and everything that people would ridicule you about or talk to you about and say, why are you talking about this? Why are you saying about this? Because this is how you feel. This is what you see. This is what is going on within your club. So there's always going to be a division in terms of that, but there isn't much of a division in terms of the West Ham fan base and how we feel about our ownership. How we feel about the way the club has been run for 15 years, how we feel that there's been a shift of location from Upton Park to a new stadium where you think, well, what is this? What is this? That's why there's no atmosphere. That's why, because it's completely gutted. Fan base is gone. It's been diluted. And there's been, classic case here. Let's just say, as a club, that a lot of your fan base is totally disconnected and totally upset with you as an ownership model, and you know that they're going to boycott a game. So what do? You go and offer for the next couple of games, home games, you go and offer kids go for a quid, and you go say like, oh, adults can go for a tenner, because they're desperate for people to, fill in those seats. So they say, oh yeah, orders, well, look, we're full at capacity. And what we're saying is boycott the game. Don't resell your tickets back to the club so they can't put people in your seats. Make sure that everybody knows that there's a boycott for a reason. It's not about not supporting Nuno Espirito Santo. It's about supporting the cause to get change at your club. Whatever club it is, that's what you should be focusing on. Is to get change at your club so that improves that club and it makes it better or returns it back to the way it was. And if you're an Arsenal fan, you've had your times as well. If you're a Liverpool, Everton, you've had your times as well about protesting about what's gone on in your club. Everybody tries to get better days. They get better days at their club, in their sporting team, whatever it is. And sometimes you just have to say, look, this is where we're at. We can't get any better. We're stuck in a hard place. But sometimes you need owners to be honest with you. You need fans to be honest with themselves as well, but you need owners to be honest with you. You can't be lied to, because you can see right through that. We're not in the dark here. We're not in the dark ages, scrabbling around trying to find out information. All this information we know as fans, and we can be as articulate as any mainstream media presenter can be. We're not just oafs who just go and watch football and just start hurling bricks at each other and all that sort of stuff. That's a perception that you keep on trying to push. That's the narrative that you keep on trying to push, that football fans don't know what they're talking about and have no concept of what it is. But actually nothing could be further from the truth. And especially about your individual team, you know more than anybody else. Because you're going to go and watch them. You watch all the games. You can see what's going on. You're invested in what's going on behind the scenes as well. And these fuckers, they don't understand that. And then they keep on trying. This is what I was saying. Boycott the game. If you're going to protest. Always peacefully, always thoughtfully, always with the best intentions. I never wish harm on anybody, and make that perfectly clear. This is all about lawful protest, right? But you do it properly. If you're going to boycott, you boycott properly. And in terms of you hit them where it hurts. You hit them in terms of Sky Sports. Pull away. Come away from their subscription. Sodom. Pull away from it. Don't pay it anymore. Pull away from TalkSport. Don't listen to them. And see how they feel about it. Every time you do if you are going to listen to them, you are going to go on, give it to them. Tell them how shameful they are. Tell them that you don't respect the fans. Tell them that you've only got you listen to your own narratives. Tell them that you only got your own agendas. Tell Jim White and Simon Jordan how shameful they are as people. Tell ex-players who say things that completely contradicts what everybody else is feeling, how shameful they are. And then hey, that'll make the news, won't it? That'll make the news. They won't have honest fans on there. They won't have honest people on there who are not just trying to get, you know, a bit of attention, bit of media attention on there. They might do, I don't know, you know, but they won't get certainly the likes of me and maybe some others. I don't know. You'd have to speak to them as well. But they won't, I'll be very surprised, because you would want to take it right to them and say, well, hold on a minute. You want to talk about this this issue, but actually, let's just talk about the whole issue here that actually talks about that. And let's just talk about what your narrative here, what your agenda is here. Why are you asking me this question here where it's completely irrelevant, where it's completely, it's a non-issue? What are you trying to say? Why are you trying to deflect from that question to that question? Why don't, what, just because I'm on your radio station, I'm on your TV sports station channel, does that mean all of a sudden that I've got to go along with what you want me to go along? I've had this years ago when I used to give a lot of radio interviews as well for other things I was involved with. And it became very clear to me very early on that you would spend a lot of your own personal time talking to these people, giving interviews and everything, and even sometimes going out live. That's the best thing, where you can go out live on these stations. They can't cut you off really quickly, and then all of a sudden you can see that they want to ask certain questions, they have a certain narrative, and when you go against that, they don't like it, they'll cut you off. And sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, this is really bad, and you're like, well, no, actually it's not really that bad at all. It's, you know, this is the reasons why. And sometimes they say, oh no, it's really good, it's fantastic. You say, no, actually, hold on, it's not. And they don't like that. They don't like it when you go against what they're trying to say. We talk about fake news of the last few years. Fake news is from a lot of these broadcasters, because they come out with what they believe is right. And just because the presenter has his own views, you know, they're not willing to listen to anybody else's. And especially when it comes to fans, they're not listening. They don't listen and they don't care. And that's why they're not sports people. They're not sports fans. They're not sports presenters. Because if they're going to be that, they should be objective. At least the minimum is be objective, be balanced, be objective. That's your role. You know, Chris Eubank Senior, what he said to, you know, what he said to the boxing commentators: "Do your job, do your job." That's exactly what he said. Do your job. You know, and this is what sports presenters should be told. Do your job. Be objective. Tell the truth. Tell what it's supposed to be. Listen to what people are saying to you. Give them a fair crack of the whip. Don't have your own agendas. You're not there to have your own agendas. You're there to pose questions. You're there to glean from the sporting world of what it is. And this is the same for news broadcasters as well. Be objective. Do your job. Do your job. Glean from the world what is actually happening, not just what you believe should be told, not just what your point of view is on this. It's not about your point of view. It's about our point of view. It's about the world's point of view. And this is the same for football. The same for football, same for anything in life. You know, if you're going to go onto these programs, if you're going to listen to them, you know, you've got to be listening to the right thing. If you're going to go in and phone into these programs or have video live links, then you've got to tell them exactly what it is and make them understand this is not their show. If you want to interview me, this is about you interviewing me. This is not about I'm just coming on here just to fluff up the pillows a little bit, you know. Kai Maniguna can't beat Fulham, but it's Arsenal they want to beat. Can't beat Fulham. Well, we haven't played Fulham yet, mate. So there we go. And you're probably right. We can't beat Fulham either. If you're talking about past seasons, yeah, I get it. Yeah, of course we want to beat Arsenal. Of course we want to beat Arsenal. Any team wants to beat any other team, right? Any fan, if you're an Arsenal fan, you idiot, then you're going to want to beat any other team, aren't you? If I'm a West Ham fan, if I'm a Liverpool fan, if I'm a Scunthorpe United fan, I'm going to want to beat any other team. Of course you do. What a complete nonsense thing to say. But there we go. Listen, I've been ranting on a lot today, but I think it just incensed me a little bit the way, and I did predict this a couple of weeks ago. I said, be careful anybody who's buying into this whole narrative that mainstream media are on your side. Whatever fan you are of whatever team, whatever sport, they're not on your side. They're on their own side. They have their own agenda. And for you as a fan, as a football fan in this regard, if you're a West Ham fan, a Man United fan, whatever, they don't represent you. They're not even really interested in your opinions. They're interested in you reinforcing their agenda of the day. That's what it is. And if you totally disagree with them, they don't really like hearing it. All they like to hear is, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, and what a great show you're doing, and this is amazing. Oh, well, this is amazing. Just like this character now right here, right? He's come on and he's kind of can't beat Fulham, but it's Arsenal they want to beat. Yeah, and I'll argue the toss with you. But that's the whole point, isn't it? You come in, give your opinion, make your comment, and I'll argue the toss against it. But I'm not gonna, start saying, oh, I think Arsenal are a fantastic team, and everybody comes up here, they should agree. And then people come in and say, no, they're crap. So, no, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Arsenal are fantastic. That's not what this is about. Or if I said Arsenal are terrible, they're crap, everything's crap about them, and everybody comes on and said, no, Arsenal are a fantastic team. And you say, no, they're absolutely crap. Because it would be wrong. That's not giving you the truth. There's a lot of crapness about Arsenal, but there's so much to admire about the way they play as well in terms of going forward. Look, they're probably the best team in the league right now. It's obvious. It's clear as day what the issue is. Taryn here, roughing up Gabriel, Timber, Saliba, Rice. Good luck with that. I agree. It's, if you're talking about tactics, which I was talking about at the start of this live show, I'm talking about tactics, about what would work against Arsenal. It's a long shot, right? It's a long shot. I'm under no illusions. As I said right at the start, Nuno Espirito Santo would be a week working with this team. The only shot, I'm not saying it's much of a shot, but the only shot is to work up and try and get, I'm not even saying rough up in terms of physically roughing up these players. I'm talking about frustrating them so they don't get much success out there. And I think that's West Ham's best shot. But hey, we'll soon find out, won't we? We'll soon find out. None of us know. That's the beauty of looking forward to a game. You just don't know. Nobody knows how anybody's going to act, how any player's going to perform. You can only set up as a coach, as a manager. You can only set up with your game plan, with the way you're going to play. This is the way I would see it in terms of West Ham going against Arsenal. This is the only way I can see us getting any kind of result against them, is to make it really difficult. And I think we got the manager to do that, or to give us the best chance of doing that. That's my point. But I tell you what, if you went up to Talk Sport or anything, they would obviously have their own agenda on it, obviously, And look, it's very interesting for me to hear other people's point of view. 100%. It's very interesting to speak to somebody or another fan of another team who are going to be totally dismissive of you, because obviously that means that you just can't even have a discussion. You can't even have a debate about a game. All you're saying is rah, West Ham, going to stuff you 5-0, or Liverpool, you're going to stuff you 10-0, whatever. That's not a debate. That's not a conversation. That's just you just thinking. I could go to any game and I'll say, oh yeah, we're going to smash them 5-0 today. I always hope we will. I'll always say, yeah, I think we can. But realistically, do I think that? No, of course not. So any thinking football fan will tell you that, right? And this is what it's about. Do I think West Ham can beat Arsenal? No. What's our best chance of beating Arsenal? Yeah, okay. That's where we can start talking about tactics. And that's where we can start talking about if Arsenal have a bad day, if Areola can make some great saves against, some great play that Arsenal can make, if we can get tight to them and stop them playing, frustrating them, that kind of thing. If we can defend against a corner, if we can defend against any crosses, all that kind of, if we can do any of that, then we've got a chance of not conceding or conceding very few goals. And then hopefully we can get a goal ourselves. It's a tall shot. It's a long shot, right? Drew Johnson, hello, Drew. Here we go. I haven't read your comments, but I've said hello, so there we go, you see. Arsenal fan here, but always wish West Ham best of luck. Thank you. Except when they are playing the Gunners, of course. I get that. I'm not stupid. I get that, right? But parking the bus and frustrating the game is no fun for anyone to watch. You're absolutely right. I'm not saying it is, and I've said this repeatedly. And as we as West Ham fans, we are saying this as well. This is not the kind of football that we want to see, but this is where we're at. This is the manager we have. These are the players that we have. I don't believe that we have the players to see the best kind of football that Nuno can deliver us. But I will say this. If you believe that playing the same kind of way against any opposition week in, week out is the way you're going to win games consistently, then you're deluded. The only way you can do that if you've got the best players in the world and you've got the best setup and the best manager in the world, you'll have success on a regular basis. So then you get Pep in his pomp, right? You get Fergie in his pomp. You get a manager and a group of players who keep on playing the same way and getting successful. But you've got to have balance, and also you've got to have the ability to tactically change from game to game, right? So, in this regard, if we're coming up against you, Arsenal, this coming weekend, if we try and go toe-to-toe with you, if we try and play an expansive game, you're going to love it as Arsenal fans, because you know that we haven't got the players for it, and we're going to get completely stuffed. However, if we tactically go against that, and try and find an antidote to your kind of game, then that is the way we could get a result. It's not going to be pretty football, isn't it? But it means that we could get a result. Now, the criticism will be if that's the only way we play, because then that's a fool's errand, and then we're going to start getting beat because teams will find us out. We'll get worked out really, really quickly. And that's not the way we want to play as West Ham fans anyway. So, words and pictures. Do you think Summerfield would definitely have Arsenal concern? I agree, completely agree. After their performance against Office, I agree. I think they are going to be concerned about them. I think they're going to be concerned with Bowen on the right, and also if Wan-Bissaka comes in as well. It's from an attacking point of view. I think they'll be really concerned as well. So flank-wise, I think we'll be okay. It's about getting that ball out to them. I think the problem is about getting the ball into the centre, into the 18-yard box, 6-yard box. Who we're going to have on the end of it, that's going to be the key. Have we got enough speed in the centre of the park? I don't believe we have, even still, with the changes that he's made. Nuno Espirito Santo, but there's enough there to be concerned about, but I'm not sure how concerned they're going to be in terms of us attacking, because they know, and we know as West Ham fans, and any fan of football knows this, and any fan of any other team knows this. Any of the team knows this. That is our defence. That is the real linchpin here. Is the weak point is. You don't beat the Arsenal. Well, you don't beat the Arsenal. Is that like a statement that nobody can ever beat Arsenal? No team is ever going to beat Arsenal? Well, guess what? Teams beat Arsenal all the time, you muppet. Of course they do. It's just because you win the odd game here, or you win more games because you're going. But historically, lots of teams have beaten at Arsenal. Chris Woods incoming in January. Fun enough. David 70. Was that 770? David 70. Thanks for the comment. Chris was coming in January. I was thinking about this very thing this morning. I was thinking in January, would Nuno Espirito Santo try and get Chris Woods to come in? I wouldn't be surprised. And, that will be a real statement of intent if he actually does that. Then we think, well, we definitely know what kind of football we're going to get, right? Win the odd game, lol. I'm talking historically. I'm talking historically. You know, because Arsenal historically have had bad years, right? That they've lost lots of games as well. So I'm not talking recently. I'm not talking in the Premier League years. I'm talking historically. You know, maybe do some of your research as well. Now, yes, of course, now they're winning loads of games. And of course, the last few seasons winning loads of games and playing some great football. And they are very hard to beat. But I still say this, that Arsenal are very, very beatable. I don't believe that West Ham are that team to beat yet. We are light years ahead of you. Light years. Oh, God. Yes, of course you are. Of course you are. That's, you know, we'll pat yourself on the back. Well done. Well done. You've made a statement. Of course you are. You know, nobody's denying it. But it doesn't mean that you can't be beat. And this is what I'm talking about, tactics. And this is what I'm talking about, you know, going up against a team like Arsenal who play some fantastic football. And what kind of tactics might work against you. Might be it because, the better team. Of course you're a better team. You got better footballers. You got better footballers all around. But lesser teams can beat better teams. And it happens week in, week out. Why does that happen? That's what you've got to ask yourself. Take your Arsenal blinkers off, and then you'll start to understand the concept of what I'm trying to talk about. That's what we're talking about here. Look, you know, do I think it's realistic that we can go to Arsenal and get a win? No. Do I think there's potential to get a draw? Yes. Do I think tactically there's a chance that Nuno can upset Arteta's game plan? Yes. Is it a long shot? 100%. Right, not that physical. In a fight in the tunnel, you lot will get ironed. Pardon the pun. In a fight, oh, you're talking about the kind of players that you've got now. Possibly. Yeah, possibly, but you know, I'm not talking about physicality in terms of getting roughed up, because there's a lot of players who can be physically stronger, and I think that's what we've lacked in terms of that, in terms of getting up there. But we're not talking about in the tunnel, aren't we? We're talking about on the pitch, and that's what you should be talking about as well. It's not about, you know, what can happen off the pitch, just what happens on the pitch, and we got enough players on there to be physical enough to upset the apple cart a little bit. And it's funny how physical some of your players are, that the slightest touch they fall on the ground like a sack of spuds, isn't it? Very interesting, that. Very interesting how Gabriel just gets a slightest little tap on the back here, just a little bit, and then all of a sudden he tumbles on the floor. Very tough, isn't that? Very tough, very strong, very resolute. That's what you are. Of course you haven't. Yeah, I think Ryan. Yeah, do you think Chris Somerville will concern? What they will give you something to think about. Let's put it that way. But I love it. I love it that the Arsenal fans are coming in and coming out with definites, coming out and saying, "Yeah, you're not going to do this." Blah, blah, blah. You know, I think it's funny. I think it's funny as hell. There we go. Melly, is it a long shot? You guys have won at the Emirates 2 years running. As a Gunner, I'm not underestimating Bowen. See, it's very, very short memories, isn't there? Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. Bowen, but he's a killer. I think we will win, but history says it's going to be. I think it's going to be tough for West Ham to get a result in. I think it's going to be tough for West Ham under Nuno. He's only had a week. But I'm saying I don't think it's going to be a walkover like some might have you believe. But I think you're absolutely right there. I think that there is an opportunity for West Ham to upset the apple cart. And it will be an upset. Although, given the last few years, we've got results against Arsenal, right? All talking like you have any control on this game. We turn up and we get 5 stuck past you. Like, yeah, well, yeah, again, there's always an opportunity that we get spanked here. Absolutely right. Not sure if I answered already, but where you fancy West Ham to finish this season with Nuno? Oh, good question. Good question. I'd say at this stage right now, if we can get us out of the bottom three, I'll be happy with that. No, I think right now it's too early to tell. I think the answer is it's too early to tell where I believe Nuno will get us. If he can make us climb out of the bottom three and get us on a run of results, because we're so early in the season, we're only 6 games into the season. You get a couple of wins and you shoot right up the table, right? 2 or 3 wins. Obviously, if other results go in your favour, but if we can get us to mid-table, if we can get us to 10th, 9th, if we can get us to an 8th or a 7th, that is a real long shot. But I think anywhere to about a 9th. 8th, 9th would be very good indeed. And again, it really depends what happens in January if we can get a couple of players in. N1 AFE. Shall we see how many games West Ham have lost? Well, yeah. Who said we've won any? Who said we've won any? What's your point? That's the point. I'm not saying that we've won any. We've won. We've had terrible form in the league the last few years. In fact, historically we've been pretty crappy as well. So that's why I'm not just talking about a few seasons here. I'm talking about going back many years as well. Do your job, do your research. On your own team. That's what you need to do. But right now, look, of course. Arsenal are winning and winning. And other teams are winning. And West Ham just losing. That's why we needed a change. That's why we need to do something. That's why, Nuno Espirito Santo came in again and Potter was kicked out. It's exactly that. Shouter, don't concede first at the Emirates. Don't concede early. You might get something, but if you concede early, it could be an embarrassing score. I agree. I agree, especially the way Arsenal play, especially how good they are. Let's not be naive about it. If we concede, and we're, as I say, I still believe that we're terrible as a defensive unit for crosses, corners, free kicks, and everything like that. If we concede, open up the floodgates. It could be a spanking. 5-6. I hope not. Of course not. Of course I want us to do well and to compete. This is the whole point about getting this manager in and changing things around. And again, the disconnect from the club, from West Ham fans, from the ownership is still there. It's completely still there. But in terms of wanting our manager to do well and change these things around, and we want our players to show a real grit and a fight in there, not give up. We had the last 25 minutes against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, and it was just like I was watching a bunch of fucking zombies walking around. I was screaming and shouting at them, saying, come on, where's the leaders? Where's the generals? Come on, where's the fight? And this is what Nuno, we're hoping can at least the bare minimum bring us up to have the bare minimum to have a fight and put up a bit of a challenge. There we go. But anyway, listen. What time is it now? Nearly come for an hour. I've been on this for a while. Anyway, but so we've got Arsenal at the weekend. Be interesting to see as they're 2 points off the lead in the table. Let's have a quick look at the table. Liverpool still on top, aren't they? We've got 15 points. Obviously, they lost last time out. Arsenal, they're on 13 points. They lost one. They've won 4, drawn 1, and lost 1. Arsenal. It's interesting that Arsenal can lose a game. Very interesting. I thought I was being told that Arsenal don't lose. Oh, but they can lose. Oh, okay. You mean something? Any team can lose. That's what I was saying, right? Any team can lose. There we go. But can we beat Arsenal? Can we stop Arsenal? Going toe to toe with Liverpool. I think we can possibly try. I think we can go in there and stuff Arsenal. how can we stuff them 2-1? That's not even a stuffing, is it? The ownership they have seems to be the big problem. It is 100%. Rich team. It should be doing well. It should be good leadership from the owners and not so many players and not lost so many of your best players. Absolutely right. It's the problem of the ownership of the team, the structure of 15 years, and the way it's taken us out. You know, and not stayed where we were and redeveloped the stadium, as opposed to moving us into a place that doesn't work as a football stadium, and replace the hardcore the fans with Premier League fans, people who just want to come and watch football. It's just fine, but you don't have the core of West Ham fans there. Then all of a sudden you lose something, and it's kind of lost forever in many ways. And it's that continued deception that's caused this problem, this disconnect. But the fans, in terms of supporting the team and the manager on the pitch, that's always going to be there. That's always going to be there. But there we go. Risbon Productions, any dream will do. I'm laughing because, yeah, at least I can laugh at it. At least I can laugh at it. Yeah, I think any dream will do at this stage. Anything will do. All right, anything will do. We'll see how we go. Right, that's been an hour. Let's hope you've got into that. Well, let's hope for a good game. Let's hope for an entertaining game as well. Whichever perspective you're looking at it from. If you're an Arsenal fan, obviously you want to smash us 5-0. If you're a West Ham fan, of course we want to smash you 5-0. You know, it's more realistic that Arsenal will smash us 5-0. Of course, I get it, but I think it's quite realistic that we can make it a tough day at the office for you guys. I'm still hopeful that it's a dream, right? It's a dream. It's a long shot if we can get a result against Arsenal, but we'll see. If you like what I do here, say keep on watching. I'll catch you again, and maybe a video or two before the game on Saturday. But certainly after the game, I'll probably come and give my thoughts afterwards as well. Right, if you like what I do, catch you again on the next video, whenever that is. Ta-ra now.